Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Juneteenth special edition. And here is our guest.
Hello. Hi.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Good to be here. Good to be talking and chatting with you today.
Hey, let me tell you, it is so good to see you first and foremost. And I want to tell you, it feels like family. Like I'm like you. And we about to get into all this, but I gotta ask you quick. So you're from South Carolina, right?
I am from Charleston, South Carolina.
All right.
Yes.
So let me just say before we get into this, because I gotta take a personal moment here, and then we'll get to all the good stuff, all the good,
Okay.
right? So my wife is from Orangeburg.
Okay, not too far.
Yeah, not too far. We got married in Charleston. When I tell you all her family, South Carolina State, like, and when I say she is our entire household, my girls too, but like we're your biggest fan. So when I tell you this,
oh
is
my goodness,
yeah, and my wife, she watching right now, but she like hyped up because she's like, you gotta, I gotta be on this. So
oh my goodness.
Well, listen, I want you to know you got South Carolina in the house. I know that people are joining.
I love it.
And we're going to have a good time today.
Absolutely.
All right. So listen, as people are joining, what I'm going to do is just get us kicked off. Okay. Right. And I want to welcome all of you that's joining. Keep joining. We're just getting started. My friend here, Kardea, has just joined us, and we're about to go through a few things here today on Juneteenth, y'all. Special edition of Little Big Chat. And I want to thank you all for joining, right? So I'm Artis Stevens. I'm president and CEO of Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America. You are watching the Little Big Chat series. And essentially what this is, it features conversations, right? Intimate conversations where we get to know about influential leaders, people who are doing incredible things in society. And we understand a little bit more about their story around mentorship, right? Mentorship, the power of mentorship, what it meant to their life. What it means to what they're doing today as well. And joining me today to talk about mentorship, to talk about Juneteenth, to talk about a few special announcement type of things we're going to do here today is Kardea Brown. And let me tell you about Kardea, right? And I think I don't have to say much, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is, I mean, what can you say, right? Exceptional example of if you can see it, you can be it, right? And Kardea, we use that a lot in our mission to talk about the work that we do. And knowing like you are an example of that, you're an example of that in our mission about chasing your own dream, your own show, Delicious Miss Brown. And y'all, when I tell you that food, and when she be putting down, it's slamming. But I'll tell you what's more slamming than even the food is how she talks about her life and her relationships, her connection, her family. That's the power of what Big Brothers Big Sisters is about as well. And that's the power of what we're going to get down to and talk a little bit about as well. As you all know, Delicious Miss Brown is on the Food Network. And she is a superstar on the Food Network, but also across other channels and communications as well. She credits a huge piece of her success in Big Brothers Big Sisters and knowing the firsthand power of mentorship and every young person living up to their potential. So with that, please help me welcome my guest and friend, Kardea Brown. Welcome, my friend.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Artis. Thank you so much for taking the time to, chat. And this is, I mean, like you said, I speak all the time about Big Brothers Big Sisters and my experience there and my journey there and how I actually went directly from Big Brothers Big Sisters to the Food Network. So I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Oh, so that's really hype. So and why don't we start? And I want to start just a little bit around like personal story, right? Mm-hmm. So let's start a little bit around personal story and why don't you start a little bit around like just your journey, right? I always ask people this, right? Like if you could just sort of talk about that background, that experience, that journey that you've had and what sort of got you to sort of where you are today. Can you tell us just a little bit about that and highlight it?
Sure. So, if anyone has heard me, talk about my story before, or even read it in my cookbook, I talk about how the trajectory of my life, from my understanding, was I was going to work in social services. And that's what I went to college for. That's what my career was going to be. That's what I thought, was going to be the trajectory of my career. And so I do not have a background in food. I've always loved to cook, but it wasn't something that I thought I was going to do for a career. But a higher power had other plans. But my heart has always been in social services. So I started off, after college. I don't know how far you want me to go back, because I go way back.
I love it. Keep it going.
But I graduated from Oglethorpe University in Atlanta, Georgia, and I started my career, A-Town, and I started my career at Georgia Mentor in right out of college. I started at Georgia Mentor in Atlanta, Georgia, where I was basically a social service worker within Georgia Mentor, where I worked with kids that were in foster care.
Yeah.
And these were considered largely at-risk youth, or special needs kids that were in the private foster care services. Mm-hmm. And so I worked with them for a while, and I went through this thing because I'm right out of college. And I'm diving right in. What better experience, what better, lesson than experience? And so I dived right in out of college, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into and how much of a mental and physical toll working in social services, especially in foster care. Yes. How much that puts on you mentally. And so when I got into the thick of in social services, and I literally had a breakdown. Wow. I had a mental health crisis, because I'm 24, 25 at this time, and I'm working in social services, and I just didn't know what I was getting myself into. And there's times where I'm on call on the weekend, and I'm getting calls for a runaway client at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going over, all of downtown Atlanta, or wherever. I'm going over Metro Atlanta trying to find this child. And so a lot of it was just a lot of mental strain. While it was rewarding, I always say social services is rewarding. It's a very special job, and it takes very special people to work in that field. And so it just took a toll on me, and I found myself having to take a leave of absence from work, because my mental health was just not in the state that I needed it to be. So I took that leave of absence, and while I was on the leave, I was just having all of these headaches. I had pains that would happen in the back of my head. I would have strains in my shoulder, because I didn't, now I know, but back then I didn't know why I would have these constant headaches. I would wake up with a headache because I was always like this. Yeah. I was always tense because I just took on a lot. And so I went to every psychologist you could think of. I went to a psychiatrist. They prescribed me medicine and said, they diagnosed me with generalized anxiety disorder. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, there's something more than this. There's something else that's going on. And so I just began to delve deeper into what was happening, because I really felt that there was a higher connection to this. And it was something there was something else that was getting at me or trying to talk to me. And so I called my aunt, Auntie Sharon. I don't know if she's on this live, but I called her and I was like, there's something, I don't know what else to do. I can't keep going through this. I'm not okay. She was like, just take some time and sit in silence. Yeah. Sometimes the answer comes when you're not so busy trying to solve it. Sometimes the answer comes when you are just in silence. And so I remember going out to this lake that was in North Georgia. And I remember going out there and just sitting there, and I just heard the word move. I'm like, what the move? I can't move. I'm already on a leave of absence. I'm working on a partial paycheck. How can I move? What are you talking about, God? And so I said, okay, well, let me figure this out. So I had a cousin who lives in New Jersey, and I called her. I was like, hey, I don't know. I just want to come, hang out with you for a few weeks. She's like, oh, sure, come on up. And meanwhile, in the meantime, I'm still going through these panic attacks. I'm still going through this anxiety. I'm still going through all of this. And so I get to New Jersey. And I'm there, and I feel this sense of relief while I'm there. I don't even know why. Why New Jersey of all places? So I feel this sense of relief there, and I get back to Georgia, and I tell my mom, I tell my grandmother, I tell my family, it's like, hey, I'm going to move to New Jersey. they're like, what?
Yeah.
This, of all places, you're going to move to I'm going to move to New Jersey. And so I decided to, just step back from whatever I was doing in Atlanta and Georgia and Atlanta, Georgia. And I said, okay, I'm going to take everything that I have. I had an SUV at the time. I packed the SUV up with my little belongings, got rid of the apartment that I had, and I moved to New Jersey. I didn't have a job before I moved to New Jersey. I had no clue what I was going to do. I just knew that something told me to move, and I'm just obeying the word.
Yeah.
I'm just obeying it.
Yeah.
And so I I get to New Jersey. I'm looking through online on Indeed or something. I'm looking for social service work. What's the first thing that pops up? Big brothers, big sisters. I just can't. And I was like, okay, this sounds very. And I saw the listing for mentor match specialists or match support specialists, and I'm like, okay, I qualify for this. I can do this. And so I fill out the application. I get a call like within the next day, and I get a call. I believe it was from Michelle. And Michelle, what is Michelle's last name? I forgot. But yeah, so Michelle calls me and said, hey, we would love to interview you. Lakeisha Street, that was working there as well. I interviewed with them, and it feels like I got hired immediately. And so I started working at Big Brothers Big Sisters within a week of moving to New Jersey. And I knew no one. I had one cousin and friends that lived in New York, but no one that lived in New Jersey, especially North Jersey. And so I started working at Big Brothers Big Sisters and instantly gained a family.
Wow.
Everyone was I still, to this day, I still have the same friends and from the coworkers that I worked with before. We're all still friends. And so I instantly felt like, okay, this is good. I feel at home. I found my tribe. And I remember the first mentor match meeting that I had. And I still keep up with the big and the little, who's no longer little. Yes.
I love this.
Yes. I had, because we follow each other on Facebook. So I keep up with all the things on Facebook. And I remember the first meeting that I had, and that was 2013. So that was 11 years ago. And excuse me. And I remember just oh my goodness, I'm really making a difference. It really felt, I didn't feel the same stress that I had working within the foster care system.
Yeah.
But, because I knew that this was different, because there was something more even though it's everything that you do in social services is meaningful, but there's something there's a magic that was made when you see the smile on a little's face when they meet their big for the first time, and being there and fostering a relationship that it makes a world of a difference for the big and the little. So I remember just going through that, and while I was working there, I still found myself cooking. So throughout this whole situation, throughout the mental health issues and all of that, and mind you, I said I was having issues with headaches, and I was having all of these anxiety attacks, went away.
Really?
As soon as I started working at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and gained friendship and started doing things that I really felt that was impactful, all of that it literally disappeared.
Yeah.
Because I felt that God was telling me that I'm in the right place now.
Yeah.
I'm here, and this is where I'm supposed to be. I don't know why New Jersey.
Yeah.
But something was there for me. And it was.
What's interesting about that, though, what you just said is, and you said why New Jersey, right? And you mentioned around your faith and finding family, and a different form of family, right? The extended family. I just think that's powerful, and one, the vulnerability of you sharing, right? I can't say how important it is, right? We talk about it all the time, Kardea, in our mission with our young people. The idea of being vulnerable to one, share what's happening with us and how it helps other people. I'm already reading the comments as you talk, and how people are just saying, thank you for being able to share sort of how like others feel. That's so important that people feel that and see that. But I want to say this to you and round about to another question too, is that it's powerful when you talk about the things that bring us together, right? And people and family and following your faith. And you know, I'm interested in you in that transition because you're transitioning to your story around food, right? And there's something about the power of food, and you talk so like articulately, elaborately, with passion about this. Tell us a little bit more about this. So now, like you said, you're in New Jersey, and then there's this exposure to food and how food sort of leads you along that journey of family and purpose. Love to hear more about that too.
Absolutely. So now I'm in New Jersey and I'm not near my mom or my grandmother who normally, you know, throw down and cook for me. So I'm like, okay, I mean, I cooked for myself before, but now I'm in New Jersey. I'm up north, so I'm missing some Southern food. You know, I'm missing that Southern food, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? So one of the first things I was like, I don't know why this came to mind, but I was like, I really want to make like a home style Thanksgiving dinner on a random like Wednesday or something. And I started doing that more and more. And I would, you know, bring my lunch just to work, and everyone would be like, what, who's cooking? What's that smell? And I'm like, oh, that's just my lunch. They was like, you brought all of that for lunch? You eat that for lunch? I'm like, yeah, collard greens, turkey wings, smothered rice. It's like, well, goodness. Listen, we just want a salad. I'm like, we're going down on Broad Street to I forgot that deli, but everybody would go. I'm like, no, I'm good. I will stay here, right here at my desk, and eat my good old Southern food. So, and then also I was dating someone at the time who played a big part in that story as well, because he too loved food as much as I did, and I remember, you know, cooking a lot for him. And he was actually the one that signed me up for, and this is about a year that has passed, and he signed me up for a show on Cooking Channel called The Dean of Lean. And so it was a pilot episode, and I don't know how, but I remember him filming me in the kitchen, and I thought it was going to go on Instagram. But I didn't know that he sent the video off to some producers who I actually still work with to this day. And he sent it off, and he said, you know, I guess sign me up for this show that was looking for home cooks. And I, out of thousands of some submissions, I was chosen to be on the show with Bobby Dean. And so the show was all about him taking people's Southern, you know, comfort foods and flipping them into leaner, more healthier meals. And so it was a 3-day shoot in Bayonne, New Jersey, where I was living at the time. And I had my friends out there. I had everyone from my neighborhood. They blocked the street off. We had like this Airstreamer there. And at this time, I'm still working at Big Brothers Big Sisters. And I remember telling them, like, hey guys, I'm going to be on a cooking show, so I need a few days off. And they're like, fine, can we come with you?
That sounds like us.
Yes, for sure. And so I had all of my Big Brother, Big Sisters peeps out there. Everyone they wore their BBBS shirts. It was so cute. And so I did the show, and I remember the last day of the shoot, Pat DeFazio, who's still my producer now on Delicious Miss Brown, he comes up to me and says, do you know that you are like, you have a knack for television? And I'm like, okay, I hear you. That sounds great. But come Monday, I'm going back to my job, and this was fun, but this is not, I can't see myself doing this for a living. First of all, I'm not classically trained. I don't know anything about television or hosting a show or anything like that. So, I mean, but if you say so, we'll see, you know? And he goes, no, I really think you have a shot. I want to fly you down to Savannah, Georgia, and I want to do a sizzle reel with you. And I want to present you to the network. They've actually been seeing clips from what we've been working on this weekend, and they really like you as well.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, what does that mean? I remember calling my mom while I'm on set, and I'm like, Ma, wow, they say I should be on TV. She's like, what are you talking about? They say you should. I'm like, they see something in me. They say I'm a natural. I don't know. I'm gonna go with it. So a few weeks later, I tell Big Brothers, because and what I felt that weekend, I had never felt before, as far as feeling as if it just felt right. Nothing in my life ever felt that right. Like, you know, working with Big Brothers Big Sisters felt promising. I felt like I found my tribe. They got me through some really tough times. In particular, one of my co-workers, Don, who I love, this is like one of my best friends now. And they got me through some really rough times, and they got me out of that dark space. And working with those mentors and meeting those littles also helped me get out of that dark space, which led me to my calling. And had I not fostered those relationships and met those people, I don't think I would have been in the right mental space to do what I'm doing now. So everything happens for a reason. Everything has divine timing, and I'm a strong believer of that. And so when they told me this is what you should be doing, and I said, you know what, I don't think. I mean, at first the fear always speaks first, because you don't know what's going to be the outcome of it. And so the fear in me was like, I don't know what you're talking about. But then I really thought about it, and I was like, I do think there's something here. Nothing has ever felt like this before. I mean, what are the chances of someone from Charleston, South Carolina, who has no background in food, no type of experience with television, ends up on a national television show out of thousands and thousands of people? And it's also unfortunate, but there's another part of the story. So there was another person that was actually supposed to be on that show, but the person's, unfortunately, their father had passed away the night before. So they could not be on the show. And so I was the second person up. And so I didn't even realize any of this. And so, you know, being there that weekend and feeling what I felt, and then there's a whole chunk of a story that happens in between that. So I said, you know what, God, I'm going to lean on faith, and I'm going to follow this. I sent in my 2 weeks resignation letter to my family at Big Brothers Big Sisters, which was really hard for me to separate, because I saw myself planting roots in New Jersey. But I always knew that my love and my home was, you know, back in Charleston, back in Atlanta, where my mother lives. And I just knew that, okay, I've been here for 2 or 3 years now. It's time for me to go back home. That's when I decided to put in my resignation and just sell everything again. So now I'm starting from scratch again. And so I moved back down south, and I basically said, you know what, I'm on an Amtrak train back to Charleston, South Carolina. And I asked myself, on the train, I've sold all of my belongings that I had accumulated over the years in New Jersey. And I said, okay, I'm on this train, I'm heading back down south. What do I do? If food, television,
walk by faith, not by sight.
Exactly. So that decision that day to say, you know what, I'm going to follow this. I don't know where it's going to lead me, but I know it's going to lead me somewhere. This opportunity would have not presented itself if it wasn't for me. I kind of, you know,
this is amazing, right? Like, just like being able to unpack this story even more. And by the way, my team is going to kill me if I don't get to this recipe stuff.
Okay, cool.
So let's 2 quick questions, right? So one that's going to lead into the second one, right? Today, Juneteenth, right?
Yes.
And all of of course, the history we know of Juneteenth, the meaning, what we celebrate, but also what we ensure as legacy, right? So many people that have gone through so much, and our descendants, our ancestors, to pave the way for us. You know, I always think about culture, right? Because so much of our culture, particularly food, right, started in the days of when our ancestors came over into this land, and how it's just sort of changed society in so many ways, and it connects people. But talk about the idea of African American culture into food, how you connect that, and then I want to bridge to sort of the big announcement we're going to make here with you as well. But let's start there with just sort of how African American culture has been infused into your food.
I mean, it's what I live and breathe, you know, and I think that's also why the opportunity presented itself to me as well, because not only do I cook, but I cook with a story. My food comes with a story. There's a reason why I'm making what I make. There is, you know, I grew up in a family where my grandmother's mother did not know how to read or write. And so a lot of the recipes that were passed down to me were passed down verbally. And so that's a lot of the stories that you hear in African American households is that, no, there's not a recipe book that's floating around the family, but you just know, you just know how to do it. And our food also is a product of necessity. Our food is a product of, just needing to get by, just needing to make a way to feed your family. And so that is what I cook. And I think that's why so many people relate to me, because my food is that. It's comfort food, but it's also food that's approachable. And it's also food that is cooked with a lot of love and soul. And that's what when I think about African American food and culture. It's just like, it's weaved with so many, it's dark, but it's also beautiful. And I think that reflects in our food. It's food with a story.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, my wife, while I was talking, my wife brought this in and she said, "Hey buddy," she whispered over on the side of me. She said, "Hey buddy, get ready for a meal tonight from this."
I know that's right.
There you go. So that actually leads to something really cool that you are doing with us that I'm really excited about as well. And I heard you have a recipe that our bigs and littles can make together. Yes. So this is a special recipe that you are dedicating to our bigs and little. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and tell everybody who's watching?
Oh my goodness. So if you watched the show this past weekend, Juneteenth is all about, honoring the holiday and also, representing that color red, because the red is to reflect the bloodshed that happened with those enslaved African Americans. So in honor of Juneteenth, I thought it would be really cool to make a version of red velvet cake. But this version is the Swiss roll cake, where it is still my good old down home Southern red velvet cake, but it's rolled up with cream cheese frosting, and you dust it with a little powdered sugar at the end. It is delicious. Oh, my mouth is watering thinking about it. It's really, really good. And the fun thing about it is that kids would love to make this recipe because it's very hands-on and it's just very cool. It's very involved. And so I think this is something that our bigs and littles would love to do, because again, it's very hands-on and it's delicious and it's good.
I love it. And for all of you who are watching, do not worry. We're going to post it. So it's going to be posted in the chat box. You're going to find it posted also on our BBBS Instagram page as well, for all the bigs and littles and all of our local big brothers and big sisters. You're going to get email blasts ad nauseum around this. So it is going to be sent out like crazy as well. Now, I got to ask you this, because you always talk about, one thing I love when I watch you always talk about music. We do this real quick. You always talk about music. I love how music is also part of what you do. So one of the things that I've noticed that you've done is, sometimes when you're cooking, you put it up, you always talk about songs, music that you're jamming to. With this recipe, tell us like maybe one or a couple songs that may come to mind for you that you would be jamming to as you make this recipe.
Oh my goodness, I'm old school. You can put on any Anita Baker. You can put on Lufa, depending on where you're from. Oh my goodness. Some good old Frankie Beverly and Mays, like something like that. You gotta have some music with a little soul to it, a little Aretha Franklin too, So I always believe in, like, when you're cooking, you gotta have those tunes, you gotta have those vibes, because those vibes transfer to your food. So I'm anything old school, any old school soul or R&B, put it on.
Yeah. And Kardea, last question that I have for you real quick. Any message that you have for all the big brothers, big sister staff, volunteers, alumni, young people who may be watching today?
You have no idea how much of a difference you're making. I know sometimes in the thick of it, you may feel drained. You may feel like, what you're doing is not having a direct or immediate impact, but you have no idea how much of an impact you're making, not only on the littles in the program, but the bigs as well, because they also get something very, very special from this. And also to the employees of Big Brothers Big Sisters. What you do, you are the meat and potatoes of the organization. What you do is so impactful and so meaningful, and we are extremely thankful, and there's so many people that are extremely thankful for what you do. The organization is something that is really, really needed. I can't tell you how many lives have been changed because they had one person to care. And so I just want to thank you guys for what you do, and to ensure and to reassure you that what you do means a lot. And you may not see it immediately, but just trust me that your impact will last the test of time.
Thank you so much. And if people want to stay connected to you, what's the best way for folks to stay connected with you, what you got going on, all that good stuff?
Okay, so you can either follow me on Instagram. I'm always there. I have no one running my social media. It's just me. So I answer DMs. I answer comments. So, Kardea Brown on Instagram. But if you also want to subscribe to my website, that's www.kardeabrown.com. And I also share updates via email on that as well.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we add that to the chat too. Kardea, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for the time. Most importantly, thank you just for being you, your authentic self, and bringing you to the table every single day and allowing us to sort of have that type of access, right? That's the type of inspiration that our world needs. And I'm looking forward to this, ultimately someday, this becoming not an Instagram live, but a meetup in person.
Oh, for sure. And I'm bringing a Swiss roll cake.
There we go. There we go. Hey, well, listen, everyone, this has been another little big chat with our special guest, Kardea Brown. Thank you again so much, everyone, for joining us. Much more to come. Everyone, have a great day. Kardea, my friend, see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.